All right. Saturday, baby. Saturday. Bring on the Yankees.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. As always, I'm Brayden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Brayden5 Iwasko. Carter First, who's well on our main Twitter account at Locked On Jays. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out. You guys get all the content, the shorts, the podcast, the live streams, the videos, the whole ordeal, and it's free, so you might as well hit it, right? Help us out. Help us help you, right? I don't know. Lot to talk about. The Blue Jays, the Yankees, ALDS. Here we go, baby. Here we go. We'll get into key matchups, pitching, what the offenses look like, and a full series preview. Give us your guys' takes, thoughts, feelings down in the comment section below. How ready are you for this one? I am over the moon, ready for Blue Jays playoff baseball. Somebody, I don't know, inject it right into me, Carter. I want it now. I don't want to wait another day, but I am happy. Saturday, Sunday, off day Monday, Tuesday, and then possibly Wednesday for the game 4. Game 5 obviously would have a break and then back at home. So massive, Carter, massive. How are you feeling? It's here. We know who the Jays are playing. How are you feeling?
It was always going to be the New York Yankees. I don't know why anyone ever faltered. I kind of was deciding, which one would I rather have? Didn't matter who I'd rather have. It was always going to be the New York Yankees. The Bronx Bombers, you're going to have to deal with Aaron Judge. You're going to have to deal with Max Fried, that starting rotation. And honestly, I wouldn't want to have it any other way. This is exactly what I would want as a baseball fan. Just seeing the Yankees on the other side, it terrifies me if things go wrong because we'll never hear the end of it as Toronto Blue Jays fans, but extremely excited, obviously. It's exactly how you'd want to see it. You're probably going to see Will Warren in the first game of the ALDS versus Kevin Gausman. I mean, if we're talking about pitching matchups, that's a pretty good way to start an ALDS divisional series against your AL East rival. I wish the Red Sox would have put up a little bit more of a fight on Thursday because you would have had some more fatigue in the Yankees bullpen with Cam Schlittler, which made me a little bit more scared for that guy in this series coming up. 8 innings, just no chance the entire day from Red Sox hitters. So very excited, but also really nervous, obviously, with the divisional rivals coming into town.
Yeah, Carter, lots to get into, but I want to start this off with a nice little story we got, all right? This will tee up just how close-knit and how much these guys want to win, the Blue Jays. We got this from, well, I'll leave it as anonymous, I guess, but this is the story. I want to give a shout-out to Miles Straw. This could not have worked out better for him with the bye week. The morning after beating the Rays on Sunday, he flew straight home from Florida. His wife had a baby girl on Monday. He got his baby and his wife home on Tuesday and flew straight back to Toronto for the simulation games because he is locked in and trying to get that ring. Something Miles Straw has not posted about. But, I mean, if that's not dedication and the want to win and the want to be there with your boys to go through all of this, huge shout out, Miles Straw. That is a great, great story, and congratulations to him and his wife as well.
Well, I don't believe that's his first kid either. So, you'd think if it was his first kid, maybe there'd be some extra steps being, taken here. But, it's just another day at the ballpark. It's another day in the life of Miles Straw. So, obviously getting over there, big moment in the life. But, it's a pretty big moment as well in Blue Jays land here. He knows how important it is to not only the team members, the players, but obviously the fans as well. So, yeah, shout out to Miles Straw for getting the work in. Inter-squad games, you got to see a little bit of insight. We didn't really comment on a lot of them because what are you going to take away from, Mason Flaherty going against Vladimir Guerrero Jr., having some of your Florida Complex League guys going against some of your Major League guys? And then if you look at the bullpen, who are you going to be excited about? Are you excited about Vladdy swinging and missing, or are you excited about the double that he's hitting off Mason Flaherty? And then in retrospect, does that make you less excited about Mason Flaherty? So again, we didn't really talk about that whatsoever. Nice to see some good swings. Obviously, nice to see that the iron is starting to sharpen iron and they are continuing to get ready for a playoff series. But let's get into some of the pitching matchups. Again, nothing is confirmed, at least on the Yankee side. Nothing's confirmed on the Jays side either. But we have some probables, at least for the first game. It seems to us that it's pretty obvious on what it's going to look like. So for the Saturday, 3:08 Eastern, or sorry, it's 4:08 Eastern time, 3:08 for us, I guess it would be, but 4:08 Eastern time for you guys, and then 4:08 Eastern time for the Sunday game as well. Kevin Gausman versus Will Warren. I'm starting to change a little bit for my second starter. I don't know if this is going to matter, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, but I'd rather have Trey Savage probably pitch at home rather than go to Yankee Stadium, pitch on the road for the first away game first away playoff game of his career. I think Shane Bieber might be a little bit more accustomed to that. It might be an easier transition for Shane Bieber, especially if you win game one. Like, I love going Trey Savage. Things don't go well there. You have the Chris Bassitt piggyback, and then you have Shane Bieber ready to go for the third game. But besides that, you're going to have Max Fried, at least for the Yankees, for game two. Trey Savage versus Max Fried. What a headline that is. But let's kind of stick at least to like the Saturday of that. How important is it for the Toronto Blue Jays with Kevin Gausman on their mound, their preferred starter, probably against Will Warren? How important is that for Kevin Gausman to kind of assert his dominance early on against the Yankees lineup?
Massively, right? That's the bonus of not playing in the wild card series. You get to start with your guy, the guy that you put everything on, and that has to be your number one pitcher, Kevin Gausman. So this is exactly when we talk sometimes rest versus rust. Is the wild card important to play in, or is it better to get the bye? In this case, it's better to get the bye. You would rather have Kevin Gausman go up against Warren here, and then, let the series ride how it will after that. But at least you get the start from your best pitcher. So this could not have worked out better. I think the Blue Jays need to take game one. All the home games obviously are going to be super important. That's why you play this many games, to come out on top and get those home games. The atmosphere, the crowd, the Canadian fans backing this team, it just does something, right? The Canadian fans, it doesn't matter if it's hockey or baseball or CFL or whatever it is, they come to play. When their team is in it, you have a whole nation riding behind whoever you are. I mean, even for some of the Canadians that didn't like the Edmonton Oilers, was it Edmonton Oilers or was it the Florida Panthers? Who do you want, right? So it's sort of a rally. In the Four Nations face-off, Carter, look at the Canadian fans and just the reception from them. There is something different, and there's going to be always something different about a Rogers Center playoff game. So Kevin Gausman, your best pitcher on the mound, the Canadian fans, this team having something and wanting something to prove against this New York Yankees team that they've done well all season with. I think this first game is massively, massively important.
And when you look across the diamond, I don't want to say Will Warren is like the worst pitcher of all time, but he doesn't have any of the stuff that, like, amongst other pitchers that you're going to see in the playoffs, that's really going to blow you away. Like, his fastball velo is sitting at 93.3 on average. Like, you look at some of the pitches, like he throws his sweeper, throws the changeup, throws the curve. Like, there's nothing in that arsenal that, like, I'm extremely scared of. I don't think Will Warren's necessarily going to go for like 6 innings. If you're not going to see 8 innings out of Will Warren like you did see with Cam Schlittler. So I think getting to Will Warren again, I think it is his first time in a playoff game as well, with him being a very young baseball player in the major leagues. So it's under the bright lights in an away stadium. Like, that's going to be a tough adjustment for a guy like Will Warren. So I think there is going to be a lot of nerves there. You got to get ahead of this. You got to get ahead of Will Warren. You got to get to him early. You got to, again, ease Kevin Gausman kind of into this game as well. Give him a little bit of wiggle room. You want to see no runs from the New York Yankees, but it is the New York Yankees. They have a prolific offense. This is a team that scores a lot of runs and hits a lot of home runs. So you got to just be prepared to deal with that. And you want your pitchers to be very good, but if you get to the Will Warren specifically early, that's just going to make everything a lot easier. And the adjustment kind of into the ALDS, where there's a lot of pressure, outside pressure from the fans, and everyone kind of looking at the Toronto Blue Jays, with them being the number one team in the American League. Lots of pressure. It eases it off immediately if you score and get to Will Warren early.
Let me ask you this, okay? Because we talked a little bit yesterday about managerial decisions, okay? And this is firstly related to Kevin Gausman. Say Kevin Gausman is going out there and absolutely shoving. How long is the absolute leash? Like, if he can go 9, are you giving him 9? Or is it one of those things, save as much bullpen as possible? Pitch count-wise, I'm saying take all of that out of there. If the Blue Jays can get a big enough lead and Kevin Gausman is shoving, I don't want to see John Schneider pull him if he is absolutely dealing and the Blue Jays have a lead, because I think you don't want to burn any bullpen as soon as you have to.
If Kevin Gausman's absolutely shoving and there's no reason to take him out, why on God's green earth when you take him out. Like, that just makes no sense whatsoever. If he isn't showing you any sort of reason, any sort of struggle at all, and he is getting the Yankees out with relative ease, that's not a guy you're going to take out. That's what you want from Kevin Gausman. I just knocked a glass of water over in my room. That's okay. Not on the laptop, at least, not on the setup. But that's what you want from Kevin Gausman. You want him to go deep, especially for the first game of the playoffs. You want your bullpen to be available for a Trey Savage start, whether it's Shane Bieber, whether it's Chris Bassitt, whoever that may be. The more bullpen arms that are available are going to be better. So if Kevin Gausman isn't having any trouble, like the pitch count, not really a problem for me whatsoever. Again, if it gets to like 115, 120, I think at that point, again, you have to start, making some moves. You can't have Kevin Gausman throw 170 pitches, as good or bad as he is on the mound. Like, that's just not realistic whatsoever. But there isn't that, like, if you get to 100, you're done. Let Kevin Gausman finish the inning, whether it's the 7th, whether it's the 8th. If he's not having any trouble and he gets to 100 pitches, let him ride it out. So I think for me, like, the hard number would be 120. Like, I don't want to see Kevin Gausman throw over 120. I just think at that point, it's a lot of injury concern, and you're just risking a lot more than it's worth, because you still have to win more than just the first game of the ALDS. Kevin Gausman going to be a big part of what you're doing and your success if you do go on a deep playoff run. So yeah, I let Kevin Gausman kind of grind it out, as long as he's not at a crazy pitch count.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, is where would that stopping point in terms of pitch count be? Because you may need him later in the series. You may need him for the next series or the series after that. So a lot of playoff baseball here. So a lot of things probably rolling around in John Schneider's head as we move forward. But Carter, this leads us into having the big conversation on lineup versus lineup. Who do you like? Who's the standouts? Who do you have to be worried for? We'll hit all of that when we come back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football and baseball season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is so much fun. It's the simplest way to add enjoyment to football and baseball. You can pick more than or less than on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley's rushing yards, and you're in the game. So I had my McCaffrey overs, I had my Aaron Judge less thans, and it went pretty well. So for the Jays game, I obviously got my more thans. I'm excited to see Kevin Gausman. I got him more than strikeouts. I'm hoping Vladdy can figure it out. For that Saturday game, I got him more than hits. I would love to take home runs. I just don't think that's going to happen at this point. And then I'm just going to pair it with the Blue Jays win. You obviously got to hammer the win as well. So if you have some specific stat predictions that you have on this upcoming Blue Jays playoff game or the NFL picks on Sunday and Monday, we would encourage you guys to get in on that and kind of put your money where your mouth is. If you're confident on a play, might as well hammer it with Prize Picks. You can download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
So Carter, continuing on here, we did want to get into the lineups of it all and sort of who scares you. Who are you worrying about Kevin Gausman facing? Who do you think will benefit from Will Warren being on the mound from the Jays? Carter, I'll throw it over to you to get into it all.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to talk about this because we've seen the Yankees obviously play a playoff series, so it's almost easier to predict what their lineup's going to look like, what their starting rotation's going to look like, who they use in specific situations. With the Blue Jays, a lot of that is still it's left to be discovered. It's still unconfirmed. Like, we don't necessarily know that's Kevin Gausman in game one. I think it's all but confirmed, at least for that point. But with the batting order, what they're going to do there, that's completely unconfirmed. How they're going to roll up the bullpen, which guys they're going to use in specific scenarios. Again, there's some things, you probably know Jeff Hoffman is the closer. You probably know Brandon Little is going to be used against their big lefties. In this case, those Cody Bellingers, those type of guys in the middle to late innings. So I guess we'll start on the offensive side of things. We'll look at which Jays hitters need to get to Will Warren being a right-handed pitcher. So you're going to see a lot of lefties in this lineup. So I think that probably means either Nathan Lucas or Addison Barger is in that number 2 spot. I'm still leaning towards Nathan Lucas. I know you have higher upside with Addison Barger. I just think right now I like Nathan Lucas in that spot better. But Vladdy, a guy that, again, you're going to want to have a big hit. George Springer at the top of that order, like guys that you're going to need to see produce. But I'm really looking at Addison Barger and Nathan Lucas specifically, those kind of left-handed platoon options. Barger not really being a platoon option at this point, but those guys that you need to hit the right-handed pitch in. Will Warren not going to blow you away with anything, like I said. Fastball velocity's not crazy. Like, the changeup's not a bad pitch for Will Warren, but I think a lot of that like what he has, these guys can handle. And for guys like Addison Barger, for guys like Nathan Lucas, for guys like Joey Loperfido, some of these younger guys, if Loperfido's on the playoff roster, but for some of these younger guys, they've seen Will Warren in AAA. They have had success against Will Warren in AAA. So that is going to bode very true and well for the Toronto Blue Jays. Like having the experience and seeing that guy before is going to be very important for the Toronto Blue Jays lineup. So specifically those two guys, Nathan Lucas and Addison Barger, I would assume that they're going to be at the top of the lineup and they're going to have to produce and come up with a big hit against Will Warren early on.
I totally agree. I think at this point, we know what we can expect from guys like George Springer. But it's going to be those, like you said, lefty options. And I think a big player in all of this is going to be Anthony Santander. What will we see from him in the playoffs, right? We didn't get a ton of them in the regular season. So now what does he bring to a playoff roster? Anthony Santander, another guy that I'm going to be keeping a very, very tight eye on to see how he's swinging. What is he chasing at? So that we can, on the Monday episode, we can bring that all to you guys. Obviously, we will have TikToks and shorts and reels and all the whole bunch out for all the weekend. We do plan on going live next week for Game 3 and what would possibly be 4. So make sure you guys are tuned in here. And then, of course, we'll have our episodes Monday to Friday as well. But Carter, another guy that I'll be interested in watching against a right-handed pitcher is Ernie Clement. What he can do at the bottom of the lineup. Me and you've talked about it, that Ernie Clement probably needs to be an everyday player in this lineup. I don't care if it's a lefty. I don't care if it's a righty. Keep him in there, even if it is towards the bottom versus a right-handed pitcher. I still think I'm very interested to see what he's capable of against a righty in the playoffs as well.
See, I don't know if they go with Ernie Clement necessarily against Will Warren. I wouldn't be surprised necessarily. Like you have Bichette out, so there's a more likely chance that you're going to have Ernie Clement probably start at third base. And like I think in the first game of an ALDS, as much as like I love Barger at third base, I don't know if you start him there. Maybe you throw him in the outfield. That's going to be a very interesting thing to say is where they use this DH spot. I gotta assume it's going to be Anthony Santander. So if Nathan Lucas is playing, maybe Addison Barger has to play third base. Maybe you throw Ernie at 2. So we'll have to see if Ernie Clement is in the lineup. Again, Ernie is that guy that I would trust in right-handed scenarios, but I would prefer that if he's available later on when the Yankees inevitably go to a left-handed reliever. Maybe you throw Ernie Clement in one of those scenarios, but then you have David Schneider, you have Ty France. So I would not be surprised if Ernie Clement is that guy. But yeah, you're going to need that production later on in the order. But for me, it's got to come from Andres Gimenez. I think that's going to be an important piece because he hasn't done really anything, let's be honest, this year offensively, other than the first, I'll give him 5 games. The Orioles series and the first game of the National Series. We'll always have that to remember him by. But we're going to need him we don't need the home run, but we need him to be that second leadoff hitter. We need to meet him to be effective at the bottom of the order, work those walks, get those infield hits, have those really gritty at-bats to keep the lineup moving, roll it over to George Springer, to those big boys at the top of the lineup. So this kind of goes into Ernie Clement as well. If he is that number 8 guy in the order, it'll be very important for the bottom of the order guys to just work those gritty at-bats, get on base for the big boys to allow them to drive them in.
Yeah, that's the 9-hole hitter, right? We've talked a lot about the importance of that, and for years having a ton of guys that could do that job that end up being the second leadoff hitter. So what Andres Gimenez can do, you're right, is going to be massive here. A lot of guys to keep an eye on. But Carter, let's take a look over at the Yankees and maybe what they can do against Kevin Gausman.
Yeah, so this is the most obvious call of all time. Who are you going to be worried about in the New York Yankees lineup? Whether it's a right-handed pitcher, whether it's a left-handed pitcher, it's going to be how they deal with Aaron Judge. Who would have thought? The guy right in the middle of that order. Didn't do any real damage against the Boston Red Sox. Had a lot of hits, got a lot of singles, but you're pretty much okay with that from Aaron Judge. You want to limit the power, and that's going to be a very big thing for Kevin Gausman, is that ideally you don't have to pitch to him in a big scenario. Ideally, you can just intentionally walk him. The Toronto Blue Jays intentionally walked Aaron Judge amongst one of the top teams in the league. They don't want to deal with Aaron Judge, and I am completely on board with that. You have seen what Aaron Judge can do firsthand in your division. I know there's still like the talks and the narrative of, hey, can Aaron Judge do in the playoffs? Let's not find that out. Let's not give the Aaron Judge that big moment. I don't want Aaron Judge to be the guy that defines this series. So for me, if you can avoid pitching to Aaron Judge in any moment, like I prefer pitching to him with 2 outs and nobody on. As much as you can do that as possible, that is going to be a huge advantage. But that's not just a pitching thing. That's not just for Kevin Gausman. That's a big thing for John Schneider, and that's going to be a focal point for John Schneider in this series is how does he deal with Aaron Judge? And what scenarios do you intentionally walk him? Who is behind him? How are you going to attack the guy behind him, which is probably going to be Cody Bellinger a lot of the time. So, again, I don't want you to deal with Aaron Judge, but there's 2 things that you got to worry about. It's Aaron Judge and how you're going to deal with that. And if you do put Aaron Judge on, how do you deal with Cody Bellinger or whoever is slotted in the lineup behind him?
Yeah, it's massive. Don't get me wrong. There are big, massive players on a lot of these playoff teams. I mean, that's a given. But not a lot of them are Aaron Judge. So how they go through that and manage that is going to be a big deal. And, we talked a lot about what John Schneider is going to bring to the table this playoffs, making certain moves, making lineup adjustments, bringing in the bullpen. But the one thing we didn't really touch on was exactly what you brought up, is the situations in which you walk Aaron Judge or you don't give him much to hit and you just test him. We talked about that as one of the keys to the series yesterday, is knowing who to pitch to and who to flirt the zone with. Aaron Judge is a guy in most scenarios that you want to flirt the zone with. Don't give him anything middle. Try to avoid that. Spin the ball more if you have to. Get that little bit of a break out of the zone. Don't give him something easy. And that is a major key. You don't want to give Aaron Judge the moment to become the playoff Aaron Judge that we all are terrified of. So at the end of the day, there are a lot of guys on this team that can hurt you. I mean, Cody Bellinger is one. Grisham can hit home runs. Chisholm. I mean, Ben Rice, can smash the ball too. This is a team built on the home run ball. So a lot of them can do that. But at the end of the day, you have to pick and point out the guys that can do the most damage. And at the end of the day, Aaron Judge does more damage than anybody in this entire league.
Yeah, it's a scary opponent to have, but you're going to have to deal with them one way or another. And that's the Yankees' MO. It's going to be the home runs. We did this off camera. We wanted to bring it to you guys, obviously, on here as well. The Yankees have 8 hitters throughout their lineup that have hit more than 20 home runs this year. The Toronto Blue Jays have 4. 4's not bad either, to be completely honest, but having 8 is absolutely ridiculous. And that's like Aaron Judge at 53. That's Trent Grisham at like 34. That's Jazz Chisholm at 31. You got a lot of other guys, Cody Bellinger at 29. Like we had George Springer at 32. Like we're not taking anything away from George Springer. 32 home runs is great from George Springer, but when you have, a bunch of guys, you have 5 guys flirting with that 32 number, and we have kind of George Springer sitting there by himself, you're not going to out home run the Yankees. And that's going to be another big point, is try to limit the Yankees home runs. Like if they hit 5 home runs in the game, you're probably not going to win, believe it or not. So you got to keep them in the ballpark. If you can limit the amount of home runs, maybe if you're going to give up a home run, let it be a solo shot to Aaron Judge. Don't let it be, that walk and then that infield hit into Aaron Judge. So that'll be a big thing as well. It's Aaron Judge the focal point. Don't let anything go wrong before and then hopefully after him if you decide to put him on base. So that will be a big thing there as well. But offensively, I mean, it's going to be up to the Blue Jays to at least keep pace with the Yankees. Like I'm not expecting 6-7 runs every single game against Will Warren. I want runs. I'm not going to lie. I want a lot of runs against Will Warren. This team has gotten to Max Fried. They have gotten to Carlos Rodon. So that will be interesting as well. But yeah, it's going to be about limiting the Yankees' power. And that's one thing that this Blue Jays club has struggled with at times. Look at Jeff Hoffman, who's given up his fair share of home runs. Yariel Rodriguez, usually when that goes bad, that's a home run ball. Brendan Little last year had his fair share of home run problems again with that command. Might be an issue there. If you go to Jose Berrios in the playoffs, Max Scherzer, any of those 2 guys, that's an issue with the home run ball. So with the Yankees specifically, I know Berrios won't matter for the Yankee series at least. The Yankees, their strength is the home run. One of the Toronto Blue Jays' weaknesses in the pitching staff is giving up the home run ball. So that is going to be another massive thing that this pitching staff will have to deal with. So I think the grand scheme of things is that I'm pretty okay with what the offense is going to do. I think they can get to Max Fried. I think they can get to Carlos Rodon. I think they're going to be relatively fine. It's just don't have that blow-up inning against the New York Yankees. Don't give them free base runners and don't let it get out of hand, whether it's the starting pitchers or the bullpen.
And Carter, one thing I wanted to bring up just before we'll get into the next segment, talk a little bit about the bullpen and then obviously our series preview prediction side of all this as well. The Yankees really didn't make a ton of errors. And I was pretty shocked for a team that's been labeled as a super poor team defensively. In that first series against Boston, not a ton. Jazz Chisholm didn't look fantastic at 2. But outside of that, they looked all right. So this is something the Blue Jays are very good at, of forcing errors, right? Running out balls hard to first, making them make that little bit of an extra play, that little bit of extra pop on the throw to try to force them into errors. Because the Blue Jays, that is one of their MOs, is being so good defensively. We've seen the Red Sox make a few errors. That catch that Jarren Duran should have made in the outfield, that probably ended up changing that game. So don't let those little things happen. It's something I will be keeping an eye on for sure.
I think like part of the reason that you didn't really see the Yankees get exposed defensively, like the really only the one I can think of is Ben Rice, when Jazz Chisholm makes an unbelievable diving play up the middle, throws the ball to Ben Rice, bounces it. Nate Eaton's at third base. Like that's in the game 2 where Nate Eaton, if he continues to hustle around third, he probably scores. I know it's a tough play because the ball didn't get that far away from Ben Rice, but in totality throughout the series, the Red Sox didn't really have that many base runners.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's a lot more pressure around you when you look to your left and there's a Blue Jay on second base. You look to your right or whatever it ends up being. I think those directions I got wrong, but you look around and you got runners all over the place. And that's just, you're going to feel the moment a lot more, especially at the Rogers Center. And that plays to the Toronto Blue Jays' strengths. Like, they get on base. They're able to walk. So they're able to get those singles. So having those guys on the base pass and just causing havoc, just being in the back of a pitcher's head and obviously a defense's head, is going to be great for the Toronto Blue Jays. So their ability to get on base will work wonders for them and really is going to be testing the limits. And again, like we talked about on Thursday's episode, is playing the Blue Jays brand of ball. If you get a runner on base, play the small ball, test the Yankees defense. We've seen time and time again this year where the Yankees falter defensively. They have gotten better since the trade deadline, but I don't trust a few guys within that infield, especially, Jazz Chisholm being one of those guys. That Ben Rice is at first base. That guy's pretty inexperienced, not the greatest defender over there. So again, if you're going to bunt it anywhere, might not be the worst idea to bunt it at Ben Rice. So I'd be looking for the Toronto Blue Jays to test the defense a little bit more than the Red Sox did. And hopefully them being more productive offensively will help and be hand in hand with that.
Yeah, exactly. Still got to get into the bullpen. We're going to get into our predictions, what we think is going to happen throughout the games. Obviously, a little bit tough. We don't know exactly who, what, where everybody's starting. But I think we all sort of have an idea in our head about how we want this series to play out and how we think this series will actually play out. So we'll come back. We'll talk all that right after this break. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Get those MLB bets in. If it's NFL, if it's MLB, if it's NHL, which starts Tuesday for everybody, the NFL season here, FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That would be massive for a little Toronto Blue Jays run here, right? Put those $5 in. Get those $300 in bonus bets and continue to bet with house money a little bit, right? What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the app, the FanDuel app today, and get started. So, Carter, continuing on as we do. Sorry, there we go. I shouldn't have clicked it. Obviously, we're going to get into the bullpen. We're going to get into our series predictions here. But, yeah, let's start with the bullpens. I think everybody has an idea of what the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen is in their heads. And I think that goes a lot to what August did to them. September, it was a lot better. What does this Yankees bullpen have to give the Toronto Blue Jays? There are a couple of guys within the Red Sox that, I was worried about facing. Aroldis Chapman has to be one of them, right? I was terrified. The way he could pitch, I thought the Blue Jays had zero chance against him. But now looking at the New York Yankees and what they have rolling out, I think it gives the Blue Jays a little bit better of a chance, Carter.
Yeah, I think the top end guys for the Boston Red Sox are definitely better than the Yankees. And I think just in totality, you got to give the Boston Red Sox the advantage bullpen wise. I think when you look at this series, if it's not going to be Aaron Judge, it's going to come down to these bullpens. These bullpens are going to have to come up in big scenarios. The Yankees bullpen is going to have to get outs against a scrappy Toronto Blue Jays lineup. And the Blue Jays bullpen is going to have to try to not get home run to death against the New York Yankees. So we're going to have to see which one prevails when you look at the Yankees side. Their top three guys, as of right now, I kind of have like two guys for the number three. It's Luke Weaver, surprisingly, seemingly to be their seventh inning guy, along with Fernando Cruz. But then they have Devin Williams, who's really kind of shaping up as a setup guy, which is really weird going into the season, being one of the best closers all in baseball. It's just crazy how quickly things can change. And then David Bednar's really cemented himself as that closing pitcher for that team. Those guys scare me. Like, I'll be honest, I don't love going against David Bednar in the ninth inning. Just having Devin Williams, the changeup, is just still a very good pitch. If he's on, he is still a very tough pitcher to handle. But if you can get the starters early, if you can get to, especially Will Warren, get him out of the game, Carlos Rodon, Max Fried, when you get later on, like if you get like Fernando Cruz, if you get Mark Leiter Jr., if you get some of these other guys, Camilo Doval, if he has to throw, in a big high stress scenario, the guy walks the house to begin with. Like, again, it all goes with the pressure scenarios that the playoffs brings. And it goes with a lot of the traffic that's on the base paths. You get those bullpen arms thinking, these guys that haven't necessarily been that efficient, especially in the month of September. The Yankees bullpen, bottom 10 bullpen in baseball in September. If you can get them stressed out early on, you can get them fatigued early on, hopefully get to Will Warren early, and then obviously get to the Yankees bullpen early as well. That's going to bode well for the Jays. That's going to be very good for the Jays. That's going to be, I think, a key focal point for the Toronto Blue Jays is get to the bullpen and do some damage. It's going to be really bullpen versus bullpen once you deal with Aaron Judge.
I could not agree more. I think not only is it big for the game at hand, getting to that bullpen early is going to be good, crucial for the rest of this series. If you can tire out and tax that bullpen, get to Will Warren early, make sure they have to go to that pen, get those guys exhausted, work 2-strike counts, work counts in your favor, you're going to exhaust them. By game 5, barring, anything awesome that would happen, by game 5, hopefully you've exhausted this Yankees bullpen. Guys are making mistakes. That's something I think the Blue Jays can really lean on if they can work this early. And that's why having Kevin Gausman start this game instead of, the Will Warren, that's why it could be so crucial moving throughout the entire series.
Yeah, game 1's going to be big. Like, it's going to be a big momentum swing. The Blue Jays have their guy on the mound. The Yankees have their 4th guy on the mound. So definitely not the guy that they would want to be rolling out in this scenario. But that's the good thing about winning the division. That's the good thing about getting the bye, is that you can set this up exactly how you want as a Toronto Blue Jays team. I think best case scenario, this would absolutely tear me apart to watch this. But the best thing the Toronto Blue Jays have done this year is come back. And how do you tax another bullpen is you make their high leverage guys throw. And the best way to do that is have it be a close game. If not the Red Sox, the Yankees are up for the majority of the game, they're going to throw Devin Williams. They're going to throw David Bednar. Ideally, if the Jays can do this, I'm not saying they should do this because I wouldn't be able to handle it. If they can get down and do the Jays way and come back in the 8th or 9th inning, that's going to tax those bullpen arms. That's going to make them throw a lot. I'd rather them do it the safer way. And, just if they're up 4-2, that'd be great. I'd rather them be up 8-1 and have it stress-free game 1 of the ALDS, get the monkey off the back and get that playoff win that this team has desperately needed over the last few seasons. But, it's going to be important to get to that bullpen, but we talked about it all kind of week long, is that we can speculate what the Yankees are going to do all week long. We speculate if Aaron Judge is going to hit 4 home runs, is Cody Bellinger going to come up with that big hit? Trent Grisham going to do this, do that? Is David Bednar going to be David Bednar? The Blue Jays have to handle what they can control. The Blue Jays have to handle their own business. Every player is going to have to play up to their role and hopefully a little bit better than that. Hopefully you get a little bit more from Vladdy, a little bit more from Springer, even though Springer's giving you everything at this point. A little bit more from Santander, just a little bit more from whoever it is in the lineup. Players need to step up. This is the biggest time of the year. This is a very important moment. Feels like one of the biggest Blue Jays games in a very long time. First time ever the Blue Jays are playing the Yankees in a playoff series. Monumental moment. This is where players step up, and it's right here out in front of you. You got your divisional rival ahead of you. The Blue Jays are already being doubted once again, which is the most obvious thing of all time. We saw a graphic, just the World Series odds, who has the highest odds to win the World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays, amongst the remaining teams, are second last. The Detroit Tigers being the only team that are underneath them. The Tigers having a plus 1,300 odds. The Toronto Blue Jays being at plus 800. And if you're looking at game 1 of this series, it's probably Will Warren, like we said, against Kevin Gausman. Guess who's favored in that one? The New York Yankees, once again, at minus 152. So Blue Jays already being betted against, already being discounted. Somehow we're the underdogs being the number 1 team in the American League. Wouldn't want it any other way. Let's go take what's ours. Let's start the series off 2-0 and report back to you guys being on top of the moon.
Wow, I should have just ended the episode there. A little power statement. I like it. Let's go, Jays, baby. Great weekend ahead. Take a look out for the Instagram, the Twitter, the TikTok, here on YouTube with the shorts. We're going to have a lot coming out for you guys. Obviously, it is going to be a blast. Like we said, live stream coming Tuesday, Wednesday for those games. Yeah, wow. We are in it. We are in it. Here we go. Go Blue Jays fans for Canada all the way to the moon.